The Mixed Martial Arts Hour is back in your life, and dare I say, back in a very big way. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ariel Helwani. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here in our New York City studios. Another huge edition, and perhaps the most anticipated edition yet, because to my left stands a man who, man, I don't even know what to say about this guy. A huge influence in the world of professional wrestling. I know he doesn't like to take this credit, but perhaps the smartest mind, one of the smartest minds in the world of professional wrestling, and a man who may or may not be entering the world of mixed martial arts very soon. We'll be talking to him about that and many other topics on this very show. Of course, I am talking about the mad scientist himself, Paul Heyman. So much to talk to you, Paul Heyman. And of course, check out the website right above me, I believe my left. It could be the right or the left. 2 phone numbers there. You can call in, talk to myself, or of course, Paul Heyman right there. It's around there. Yeah, I think it's around there. There are 2 phone numbers.
This is like being a weatherman,
yeah.
You know?
Yes, you got the green
screen. The clouds
screen.
will be moving in across Ariel's ears.
Right. So call in and talk to Mr. Paul Heyman. You can ask him anything you want. He has said it is no holds barred. So it doesn't even matter if it's about MMA or pro wrestling, whatever. You can ask Paul Heyman. But I mentioned MMA, and a lot of people were wondering, are we talking pro wrestling here today? We'll get to that stuff later. But I want to talk to this man about the world of mixed martial arts because, Paul, I have been so impressed with your knowledge of the sport and how big of a fan you are of this sport. Of course, we know about your friendship with Brock Lesnar, and I think a lot of people found out about it for the first time at UFC 116. You got a lot of attention at 116. Was that just a coincidence, or was that some sort of plan on your part and Brock's part?
We're taking over the world.
Are you his manager now?
No, oh God, no. Oh, and I don't want to be. That's a 24/7 job.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, he's Brock and I go back to 2002, and he was brought up to the main roster in WWE from the Louisville developmental
OVW.
OVW, and we got put together. You know, the funniest thing was I'd been off TV for a while, and I was just behind the scenes, and I was taking over the head writer position on SmackDown because Vince McMahon and Stephanie had decided to split the right, of course, and it's the expansion of the writing team, but they were splitting it.
Let's be honest.
As much as we can.
Right.
And so I was actually scheduled to go back on the year at WrestleMania to manage Chris Benoit, of all people.
Really?
Yeah.
What year is this? 2002?
2002,
okay.
Yeah. And then I saw Brock. Brock was doing what they call dark matches, you know, the matches before the show, just so Vince and everybody else and the writers and the producers can take a look at you and say, oh, this guy must have some talent. And, man, he just blew me away. And actually, Taz brought him over to me. Taz said, hey, yeah, brother, you got to take a look at this guy. You get into his head, you know. And that was it. We just had a chemistry together, and Vince pulled the plug on the Benoit thing and put me with Brock. So we just worked together, and we just had a chemistry together, and we just had we were both having our first children at the same time, and we're both having a daughter, you know. And so it just, the stars were aligned with us, and we just got along. So I've been meaning to go to his fights since his first one. And one thing or another would come up. And so I would keep missing the fights.
Really?
Yeah. So
that must have killed you.
Well, that which does not kill you only makes you stronger.
That is true.
So, so this time he was going to kill me. You coming to my fight. Okay, I'll be there, And it was in Vegas, and it was just such an emotional ride with him being sick and everything. I wasn't going to miss this one no matter what.
Was that your first Brock Lesnar fight?
That was absolutely.
I had never seen you before?
Nope. The only other time
I saw you in New Jersey.
New Jersey, right.
Yes, you were
I'd
there.
never been to I hadn't been to a live event besides one Knicks game since I left WWE.
Really?
Yeah, I avoid them.
Why?
I hate crowds.
No.
I hate crowds.
Really?
And I hate, it's like you never go to a movie with Paul Heyman.
Why?
Because I sit there and oh man, why'd they use that?
You're that guy.
Yeah, I'm the asshole, man. I just sit there and go, oh, look at the lighting on that. Oh man, they should have zoomed in on the camera. I'm the worst person to go to an event with.
You say you hate crowds, but I have seen you, of course, in front of thousands of people, having each and every one of them eating out of the palm of your hand.
That's different.
How's that different?
You own the crowd that way. You're in front of the crowd.
You don't like to be a part of a crowd. You like to be in front of the crowd.
Yeah, or I like to control it. I like to be the guy saying, okay, go hit the music, or go with the lights, or okay, you do your entrance now. I don't like watching shows. I like running shows. I like presenting shows. I like producing shows. I like directing shows. I can't stand being just a member of the audience.
So more to that point, and we'll get to Brock now in a second, your first UFC event, UFC 111, pretty solid card. I mean, there was a title fight on the card, Carwin beats Mir.
Right.
What did you think of the experience as a fan sitting there, the music, the lights, all that? What did you think of it?
Loved it. I love the culture of it. That's what really blew me away was, you know, you see the tap out guys and they have their section, and you see the celebrities and they have their section, and you see where Dana sits and you see where Lorenzo sits, and the media's over here, and this guy over here yells out to this guy over there, and okay, the security stops. It's just it's the whole culture. Everybody knows their position, and the audience knows their role as well. It's the evolution of what I envisioned wrestling to be in the '90s, and then at the beginning of the millennium, and it's the evolution of how a sporting event is played out today. You know, it's like my favorite part of a basketball game, and they so shy away from this on television. Is when the guy's at the free throw line, and you get that camera angle from his back, and all the fans are going, ah! and then they're trying to distract the guy. That's my favorite part, because it's the audience participation. You know, and that's what I love. And the audience is such a part of it, and the music is a part of it, and the lighting's a part of it. And I mean, Bruce Buffer, I'm the world's biggest Bruce Buffer
He's
fan.
amazing.
Oh, yeah, because, like, you know, fighting! And
Yeah.
oh, man, everybody's going, yeah, fighting! Ah! You know, it's like he just gets you so into it. Everybody's a part of it, you know? I mean, from the Octagon girls to the Octagon itself has a character.
It does.
You know?
The way it's lit up.
Everything. You know, it's just, they have mastered the art of making this a culture.
Anything you would change?
A million.
You're sitting there and you say, this is all great, but I think they should do that and that differently.
Hard to say that. I'm going to look at it from a different set of eyes than they do. But what they do is very, very, very successful. So for me to sit there and say, well, you know, I wouldn't use that music. Or, God, you know, maybe they should shoot it this way. I'm being a dickhead, because it's like what they do is so uber successful that for me to critique it,
right,
I'm a jerk off.
But you're the guy who sits in a movie, and I'm sure whether it's you know, a blockbuster hit or not, you're still critiquing.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, but these guys are really successful. They're more successful than I was in a business that's rather similar.
Right.
So I mean, who am I to say? You know, I mean.
Have you? So I'm guessing you've never been to a Strikeforce event.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Because I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, television-wise. You've watched them obviously on TV.
They need a lot of help television-wise.
How?
Because it's the CBS Showtime vision for MMA, and it's not really a mixed martial arts vision for MMA. It's you know, and go back to the one that everybody points to. They missed King Mo's entrance.
Horrible.
You know,
if they miss it this weekend, I'm done.
You're done.
You're
boycotting.
I'm boycotting. I mean, he's in the main event. They have to show it this weekend, right?
Oh well, you know.
You never know, right?
You know the old thing, like, you know, you can't miss this one.
Right.
Oh, yes, I can. You know, I mean, you got a bunch of golfing people doing this thing. You know, it's.
So what is it? Just something that comes with time, or do they need to bring in people from the combat sports world? What are they missing right now? Because you look at their event, it looks a little different. To be honest, I think they actually do a few things better. I think their pre-fight packages very good. You know, the way they shoot them.
Very professional.
I like the opening package, but then there's just some other things. Like, I don't know if you watch Strikeforce Challengers. They just had one on Friday on Showtime, and that looks like a freshman class from the Connecticut School of Broadcasting put together those pre-fight packages. It's ridiculous that, you know, it's very, very, it's done on the cheap.
Right.
And I think that's insulting to your fans.
I don't mind that it's done on the cheap. I mind that it's done without the knowledge of what an MMA crowd or even a sports crowd that's checking out MMA would be looking for. It's really like the Golfing Channel presents mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. It's such, I can't remember his name, and I should, and I feel like a schmuck not knowing his name. The guy that does the interviews.
Gus Johnson?
Gus Johnson.
Yes.
You just had a tremendous fight, and how do you feel now that you're so full of blood? Man, you know, you get Joe Rogan in that cage. He's like,
right.
I'm here with the winner of the fight. Man, that was balls to the wall. You know, it's like, you know, and I know a lot of purists are sitting there, you know, saying, God, why is he always yelling at me? Because he's fucking excited. That's why.
Right.
You know, Rogan gets me into it. First of all, his knowledge is
second to none.
Unparalleled.
Right.
Yeah. You know, but also he's so enthusiastic about he's such a fan of the product.
Right.
And he gets me into it. You know, and Gus is just like, I am so excited today to be here with the winner. Fuck off.
It's amazing because in the
You know, and I'm
world,
probably going to run into this guy. He's going to walk
Yeah.
up to me and like
Yeah.
punch me in the face. But you know,
but in the world of the NBA and college basketball, he is known as the guy who is the most excited. You know, you go on YouTube and there are clips devoted to him about his crazy calls. For some reason, then when he comes to MMA, he's like,
right, kind of like being the guy with an ounce of energy inside a Valium addiction circle. You know?
Right.
Hey, man, I'm really bored today. Hi guys. Oh man, that guy's too loud. You know?
right.
He's known as the exciting guy.
Well, he is actually pretty excited, but it's just for some reason, it doesn't translate. And you're right.
Showtime, CB, it's the Tiffany Network.
It is the Tiffany Network. Okay. I'm jumping around here because there's so much to ask you. Let's just, we're talking about Strikeforce a
Can
lot
I take
here.
a swig of my coffee?
Please. And again, please give us a call. There are a lot of people writing in about the show. And
I have a question for you.
Yeah, please.
What happens if I call?
Yeah.
Can I talk to myself?
well,
I talk to myself all the time anyway.
Right now the phones the lines are packed.
Hang
so-
up on them.
Well,
Gives other people a chance.
there were people calling in, by the way, 45 minutes ago to talk to this man before he ever got here. And, of course, so much...
Well, there's no accounting for taste, is there?
So much excitement because I think what fans are starting to realize here, Paul, and, of course, the pink elephant in the room right now is...
The pink elephant?
Yes, the pink elephant.
Very nice.
Is everyone wants to know about you and TNA. We'll get to that later on. This is not a pro
But
wrestling
this is
show.
not the pro wrestling. This is
Exactly.
the MMA hour.
But this is what I'm getting at. You are
Do you
not...
like how my voice gets higher and higher as I drink more coffee?
Yes.
It
Hey,
starts
please.
out with my, I'm Gus Johnson. And then it goes to, it's the MMA hour.
You get excited when you talk about MMA, and that's what I'm getting at here. You have not accepted a job with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, and they did this whatever it was, ECW reunion show, whatever it was, a couple weeks ago. Baloney. You have not accepted that job, and a lot of people are wondering. We see you at 111, we see you at 116. You're on my show. Is Paul Heyman setting himself up for a future in the world of mixed martial arts? That's what people are thinking. That is what I am thinking, and that's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you here. You are very intrigued by this sport. You're a huge fan.
Yeah.
Do you want to work in this sport?
I want to work with the sport, yeah. I think I think I have something to contribute. What that is, I don't know yet. And it has to be the right mix. I think there's a lot of money to be made in it, and I certainly see it as the future far more than professional wrestling.
You do?
Oh, yeah. Of
And
course I
you
do.
don't agree with people like Eric Bischoff who say it's not apples and oranges, pro wrestling and MMA, it's apples and bricks. There's no correlation between the two audiences, between the two products. You don't agree with that because I sure as heck don't. He has said that.
Eric Bischoff has the blinders on. I can't believe that a man who has his level of intelligence, and he's no dope, would honestly believe that. I think that's just a positioning standpoint, or he's trying to come off as a heel.
Vince McMahon also believes this.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
No.
Because there are people who say he doesn't watch it. He thinks it's ridiculous to watch it.
I believe that he doesn't watch it
Uh-huh.
because Vince is, first of all, you got to understand something about Vince. Vince lives in a bubble. And Vince does not like the universe, so he created his own, and he lives in it, and he's the ruler of that kingdom. Vince did not watch WCW in the 1990s. Vince did not watch ECW in the 1990s. Vince does not pay attention to things like that. Vince waits until he can't escape hearing about it, and then he says, show me something about it. Put together a package, educate me in 10 minutes on it. And his production people will put together an informative package that lets him understand as much as he can in the brief attention span that he will offer you. And then he says, okay, we got to do our version of that. And that's it. And you're off to the races with Vince. You know,
He has not had that discussion about MMA yet.
oh, we've had, I brought the MMA discussion to him as many times as probably his own son Shane did.
But you left in what, 2003?
2006.
2006, excuse me.
Right. Excuse me. I just burped, so.
No problem.
It's the coffee.
MMA has changed a lot since 2006.
Yeah.
Is anyone coming to him at this point? Because, I mean, you want to say that the audiences are different, whatever. Their pay-per-view numbers are going down. The UFCs are going up.
Right.
Clearly.
And there's a direct correlation.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So you think someone is telling him about this? Because if you look at the WWE product, if you look at TNA tries to do it sometimes. They're not taking ideas, and they're not trying to figure out, this is what works for them. Let's try to, plug it in here. To me, it doesn't look like they're doing that.
I'll give you both answers. I'll give you two sides of speculation. One, World Wrestling Entertainment is not a place where a lot of people are encouraged to speak truth to power. Number two, those who do speak truth to power pick their spots very carefully with Vince. And when they do, when it's a heart-to-heart or a man-to-man or a daughter-father talk, because I've seen Stephanie bring these conversations to him too, and they're discouraged at times, you know.
Why?
Because Vince lives in his own world and he wants the universe to be as here's the best thing I can tell you about Vince McMahon. And it's the ultimate Vince control story. If you're in the room with Vince McMahon and he sneezes, go on your BlackBerry for the next 20 minutes because nothing that you say to him is going to get through.
Really?
Yeah, because he gets very pissed off because he can't control the sneeze. You sit there, Vince, what do you want to do today? Today we're going to do this. I want this word changed. I want that comma moved over here. I want this I dotted a little bit. I want the dot on the I a quarter of a centimeter up on the script because that's the way I like to read it. Achoo! Vince, how you doing? He hears nothing. It's just, it's like, you know, get smart. The cone of silence comes down. That's it. He's out for 20 minutes. Vince, why were you so mad? I sneezed. And I should be able to control that. There is no sneezing. Okay, there is no sneezing. That's Vince.
Wow.
So Vince can't control the explosion of the MMA culture, and therefore it doesn't exist.
But he can try to look at what is working for MMA and specifically the UFC and try to, for example, you know, I don't think wrestling fans, and they are catering to younger fans nowadays, but look at what is making MMA good. I mean, obviously it's real, but you know, there are no gimmicks, really. I mean, guys have different personalities. King Mo has a personality, but there's no, you know, boogeyman. There's, you know, Shane Carwin. There's Muhammad Lawal. There's, you know, anyone. Chris Cyborg. Those people all have personalities, right, but there are no, you know what I mean?
But it goes back to Dave Chemo Leopoldo coming out to the cage with a cross, you know? I mean, and Vince would look at that and say, God damn, that's how you do it, pal.
Right.
Vince is a peculiar guy, and he's certainly not unsuccessful. So what will happen is there's going to come a time, if it hasn't happened already, where Vince says, okay, we've got to pay more attention to this. And I want to be the smartest guy in the room about this. And he will educate himself about it. And he will ask for reading material. He reads a lot. He's much better reading than watching.
Really?
If he reads it, he'll get it more than if he actually watches it.
Really?
Yeah, once he reads a couple hundred pages on it, then he wants to see it.
You don't think he watches Brock Lesnar pay-per-view fights?
If he hasn't, he will. And if he has, he just started.
Okay.
But he won't admit it.
Were you there when they had this supposed or alleged discussion with the Pride owners about potentially buying it?
I may have been in the company, but I wasn't privy to the conversations. I was there in the room when we decided whether to let the Ultimate Fighter come on after Monday Night Raw.
Really?
Yeah.
They had the final say.
Oh yeah, they had the right to approve or decline any programming that followed them.
And were they close to saying no?
No, I told him he better not let them on.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the asshole that almost turned the tide.
Because there is a direct correlation between the rise of the UFC and the way that show was placed on the schedule.
Absolutely.
So why'd you say no? Because you knew what was going to happen?
Of course.
And what did he say? Whatever?
Come on, pal.
Really?
Yeah, come on, pal. What? Should I be afraid of basketball too? Yes. Should I be afraid of baseball? Yes. Should I be afraid of football? Yes. Be afraid of anything that's going to take away from your pay-per-view dollar, and they're going to reach into your pocket and rip it open, and all those dollars are going to flow right there. Why do you say that? Because that's more interesting than we are.
When did you first become an MMA fan?
Let's see. I took over the creative of ECW in September 1993, the same month that UFC promoted its first event, and I became a fan probably the first time I saw Hoist Gracie choke the son of a bitch out.
Really?
Yeah.
Since then?
Oh, yeah.
And you have been following it because there have been some dark periods. You know, you can watch it on pay-per-view.
Sometimes the dark periods are even better than
that is true. Coming from you.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Oh, of course. You know, and plus I knew the guys at Semaphore.
Right.
You know, Semaphore was either trying to buy into ECW, buy ECW, or get us on, be our pay-per-view distributor from the beginning of 1995. I mean, there was Bob Meyerowitz, David Isaacs, Campbell McLaren, and a guy by the name of Michael Abramson. Mm-hmm. And these were the you know, the powers behind Semaphore. You know, Meyerowitz wanted us on. David Isaacs wanted us on. Campbell McLaren was a huge ECW fan. And Michael Abramson I knew from hanging out with him at the China Club from, you know, dating back to 1989. So, I mean, these guys were having meetings with us all the time trying to get us on pay-per-view.
And because you didn't have the platform that WWE and WCW had, and WWE still has, you obviously never became as popular as them. I mean, there were a lot of factors, and we don't have to get into that. But here's the thing. You say you were a fan of MMA and the UFC since their first show, November 1993.
Well, we introduced the tap to pro wrestling.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. You and it's clear, and I'm not surprised to hear you say that, because you look at Taz, the submission wrestling machine, and you look at your storylines, and you look at the way you were able to create characters. And something I've always remembered that you say, you play to someone's strengths. A guy can't wrestle, he can't. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you accentuate the strengths and you hide the weaknesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say that many times. Clearly, based on what you accomplished, you can take something away from MMA and bring it into wrestling.
Of course.
Why doesn't anyone else figure this out?
Because they make wrestling too complicated nowadays. Hey, you know, wrestling's a real easy thing. Wrestling is High Plains Drifter with Clint Eastwood. Here are the bad guys. Here's a guy that can kick the bad guy's ass. Build up the bad guys. Build them up, build them up, build them up, build them up. Now the good guy rolls into town. Let's fight. It's easy. You know, MMA answers some very interesting questions. Who are these two guys? Why are they fighting? And why should I care? And if you can answer those three questions, you'll sell a ticket or a pay-per-view. If you can't answer the questions, who's going to buy it? And wrestling has become so convoluted because everybody tries to outthink themselves. Oh, we need to put more reality into this. Let's talk about behind the scenes so people think, you know, we're breaking down the walls. Why? Here's an interesting character. Here's another interesting character. What would happen if these two guys actually had a match? Wow, I'm intrigued. I'd like to watch that.
But can these same principles be applied to boxing? Or is it just an MMA wrestling relationship?
Well, of course it can be applied to boxing. It can be applied to anything.
Because no one else.
It's the Yankees and the Red Sox.
But when you look at boxing, because you can even say that boxing doesn't figure it out, you know, more so than any of them, right? I mean, look what, you know, they had a great fight on the weekend, or this past weekend. They had Chad Dawson, Jean Pascal. Great story too. You know, the champ is coming in essentially to the challenger's hometown, even though the challenger was a champion. It's a whole other, you know, a mix-up. But and the challenger wins and gives the guy his first loss. All this stuff. Who knows about it? No one.
Exactly. Who knows about it?
Right.
That's the question. How is it publicized? How is it marketed? How did the word get out there about it? You know, it's not just about it's the tree falling in the forest, you know. I mean, people would know it if it was Mayweather. They would know it if it was De La Hoya.
Right.
They would certainly know it if it was Pacquiao. You know, it's about promotions.
So you look at this stuff right now, MMA, boxing, you know, obviously you're not getting into that anytime soon. And it's funny.
How do you know?
Well, you know,
I might be doing a box. I might leave here today, and I might, you know, I do the AOL MMA hour.
Right.
90 minutes today.
Right.
I go over to Yahoo,
right,
and I do the Yahoo boxing hour.
If they do that, I'd be very excited to hear that show. But okay, so it's almost like you can come full circle here, though, because now the wrestling guy who was taking elements of MMA to make his brand better is now, for lack of a better word, a free agent.
Right.
And he's kind of interested in going back into this MMA world, working in it.
I'm looking at it, yeah. I mean, again, I don't know.
When you're looking, are you looking like a guy like, you know, with his business hat on, or as a fan? Like, how much are you looking to get into this right now?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know my role yet. I mean, I'm not sending out my resume.
But people have contacted you.
Oh yeah.
Who?
In terms of
which promotions?
The ones that are still around, or the ones.
Well,
that
you said something interesting off air here. You were very close to being Jay Larkin at the IFL, to accepting that position.
Well, Jay Larkin was already there.
He was.
Yeah, I was.
Talk about this relationship for a sec.
I had just left WWE, and IFL signed with the William Morris agency, and what was his name? The comic book guy, Garib
Sheamus.
Garib Sheamus.
Not to be confused with
Sheamus, the WWE. Hey, I'm going to go down and kick somebody's ass with the worst Irish accent you've ever had on this show. And I apologize to all the Irish.
Right.
You know, I don't want an Irishman coming on here going, "Oy vey, my name is Paul Heyman. Let me go buy something wholesale." Anyway, so they were with the William Morris agency, and I was repped, and still am in some ways, I guess, by William Morris, which is now William Morris Endeavor. And we all got in a room together, and Garib was there, and whoever else was behind the promotion was there. And
Kurt Otto?
Yes.
commissioner.
Yeah, the boxing guy.
Yeah,
Right, Kurt Otto.
Right.
I always want to say Gary Shaw, and it's not Gary Shaw, but for some reason I always confuse the two. Kurt Otto was there, and Jay Larkin had just started coming in as an advisor, and they were looking for an executive producer who had product knowledge and a knowledge of the characters.
Was this before they got on My Nine?
They were coming on to it.
Okay.
They hadn't taped their first show yet.
Okay.
They were looking,
which was a horrible show. I don't know if you remember with the promos about the guy flatline. Yeah.
Horrible.
Okay.
Horrible.
Yes.
Just the worst. And they were looking for an executive producer. And what was funny was that we were talking about, my big play was, give me stock. And we walked into the meeting and the stock was at 11. And they're like, how much stock do you want? I'm like, how much you got, And we left the meeting and the stock was at $12.75. And I'm sitting there saying, man, this sounds like a fucking deal, And I didn't accept the job.
Why?
They wouldn't do it in a cage.
That's it. Why?
Because I knew it would fail.
No, why wouldn't they do it in a cage?
I don't know. They just wouldn't listen to me because they didn't want to listen to me.
They didn't want to be the UFC, or was
we're gonna do it in a ring? Oh,
Jay Larkin didn't like the cage because he thought from a TV perspective
it was hard to shoot.
Right.
Right. And to me, you ever watch these things like on ESPN Classics or you see the old boxing for now Marciano comes in and it sounds like the old war record like Marciano's in the corner and it's like it's almost like a strobe light and it's in black and white and it's like wow man that's really if you're epileptic you go into seizures just watching it. To me that's if you do MMA in a ring. That's what that is. To any kid today, that's old footage.
Right.
Or it's wrestling. Or it's kickboxing.
Right.
The cage is the deal now, man. I mean, I have in my backyard a water park for my kids, but we also happen to have a trampoline with, the big mesh net. And all the other kids in the neighborhood come over and go, oh, man, you got an octagon in your backyard. No, it's a trampoline. But to them, it's the octagon. Because that's what kids think. They see the cage. That's MMA today.
So you said, I'm on board, but you got to change your ring to a cage. They said no, that was it?
I wasn't on board unless they changed. There wasn't a discussion about me doing mixed martial arts in a ring. There was no reason to talk about it. It would fail.
I guess you didn't regret the decision.
No. No, I would have liked to take the stock until it hit about 15 and bail out. But I wasn't. What's the old expression? I may be a pimp, but I ain't no hoe.
Right.
I knew it would fail, and I wasn't going to jump from WWE and the ECW within WWE,
right,
and go straight into this other thing that I just looked at and said, "You guys are going to fail."
So was that the first time an MMA organization had contacted you about working for them?
Well, I mean, in the 90s, it was always something with UFC, with the Meyerowitz, Isaacs,
you talked to them about this?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Back then, of course. I mean, there was always like, what are you going to do? You want to do something together? I mean, we used Paul Varlins, who was under UFC contract at the time. We fed him to Taz.
Right.
So, I mean, it was, I was always on the periphery of it.
But never anything serious, right?
No.
Now, IFL, you say no.
Right.
When's the next time someone contacts you?
Bob Meyerowitz wanted me to be involved in Yama.
Yama?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. That would have made the whole story even greater.
All the losers coming after me, man.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, so this bankrupt company offered me a job. Right. So did that one.
Wait, but they had a cage, a weird one.
Yes, they,
So why'd you say no?
They had some different concepts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, this is great. This sounds wonderful. The guy, you mean the guy that put together the original UFC? And I understand why it didn't work out. I mean, I suffered through that too. I mean, there's just so much a human being can do. So the guy that put this thing together, same guy that put together the King Biscuit Flour Hour and changed music, is going to get back into the MMA game with Live Nation footing the bill. Holy cow, this is a recipe for a true competition at UFC. My man, I'm in. How do we do it? Who's your first main event? Tank Abbott. Tank Abbott. Tank Abbott. I'm out. No, thank you.
That was it.
Oh, of course.
And I'm sure you weren't surprised to see them no longer around.
No new concepts.
Right.
The new concept was the cage and there's sharks swimming around the cage.
Right.
And it's over water. Who knows what the Yama pit. Okay.
And it's
Great.
funny, you see the same thing in pro wrestling still. I mean, even
Right.
the TNA thing, people just trying to recycle the same old
Right.
stories.
No
over and
new
over
ideas.
again. That was around 2 years ago, 2.5, maybe 3
Yama?
years.
Yeah, same time frame.
2008, yeah.
right after IFL.
Right. Obviously, throughout this whole time, you are doing your website. You're doing great, Heyman Hustle. When's the next time someone contacts you?
Wow. There's been a whole bunch of people in New York that want to get in.
Right.
And anybody that's wanted to get into the MMA business in New York, I end up having a meeting with and looking at them saying, "You're gonna lose your fucking ass."
I'm sure you get people calling you all the time, emails,
Right.
feelers, whatever, and you could tell a lot of them are just bogus, right?
It's not just that but you know what? Even
They dream big, but they don't realize what it takes to actually.
But you can't blame somebody for dreaming big.
No, totally.
Because to do it, you got to be insane.
Right.
You have to be. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's like if you're looking for someone with sanity and like a rational, reasonable, calculated business person, the first thing that I'll say to them is go invest your money in treasury bonds because this ain't the place to be. Nobody sane starts their own promotion. I mean, if I go back to 1993 and I'm going into the creative end of ECW, if I was sane, I wouldn't have done it. I'd be fucking nuts. I had to be fucking crazy to do it. Well, what kind of idiot does something like that? If Vince McMahon were sane, he never would have built it. If Dana White was your normal businessman wearing a three-piece suit, he would never have gotten to where he is. It takes a lunatic to be successful.
But those guys are smart. They're businessmen.
Oh, they're smart lunatics.
Right.
Yeah, it's Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Except you don't cut out half the brain for the Indian to kill you.
How about Elite XC?
I don't think I ever spoke to them.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. Is that the Gary Shore promotion?
Right.
No, I never
Kimbo
spoke.
Slice, all that stuff.
No, I never spoke to them.
You must have been intrigued by that. Because Kimbo's like right out of Taz, right? I mean,
yeah.
He's this.
I thought they totally mishandled him.
How?
Because they had to know.
I mean, he wasn't that good?
I can't fight Kimbo. And
right.
Kimbo, if you're watching, I have no desire to fight him. But I can't fight Kimbo, but he can't fight these guys. He's a character. And people didn't give a shit. The purists can sit there and say, "Oh, man, you put him in a cage with Couture kick his ass." So what? He's a character. My suggestion, I remember one guy called me up from L.A., and he goes, "I got access to $100 million, and I have all these friends, and we want to put on the..." And he did. I mean, this was a really wealthy dude. And he says, "My friends and I were going to come in. We're going to blast it out. We need a stunt. What do we do?" And I said, "Find a guy who studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, then ended up going to jail for a couple of years. Take him his first day out of prison and put him in a cage with Dog the Bounty Hunter. Now you got yourself a fight. And as long as the guy has a personality, between him and Dog, or he and Dog, saying thank you very much."
Yep.
Hey, I was raised to speak, good grammar here.
Yeah, no.
Between Dog and this other gentleman, you have a fight, and if as long as you can buy some airtime somewhere or get on TV, you might have a real good stunt. Kimbo was a stunt. And the moment you take that stunt and you try to put him into true competition against people that he can't take, you're exposing him. And they exposed him several times, and he was still a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a testament to him. To me, he should have been protected all the way up to a fight with Lesnar.
Really?
Oh, my God. Could you imagine that buy rate?
But, I mean, Matt Mitrione. If you're not going to put him in there against Matt Mitrione, who are you putting him in there against?
Tomato cans. Well, it doesn't happen?
But that's not the UFC way.
But I didn't...
Right, exactly. The Elite XC should have done it that way. You're 100% right. And, yeah, I mean, they put him in there against guys like Tank Abbott. I mean, he did beat those guys.
Okay.
James Thompson almost got exposed by him. And then what are you left with?
Actually, I got to call that one.
What?
James Thompson.
What about him?
Well, who let him into the cage with a cauliflower ear that is so engorged with blood? I mean, it's as if they took a needle and shot the blood in there.
You think they did that on purpose?
Well, I mean, would you have, if you were an athletic commissioner, wouldn't you notice that ear?
And this was New Jersey, usually pretty strict. Weird.
Oh, the Sopranos was about New Jersey, too. I mean, something was going on there. I mean, come on. How could they let this guy in a cage? I mean, it's like if a guy had a boil above his eyebrow that was like a basketball, okay?
Right.
And you go, pop, and he starts to bleed. you know, some cut guy would have to say, that ear looks kind of, should we drain that thing before the fight? It's just there for him. It's like a fucking balloon for someone to pop. Yeah. He gets in trouble. He hits the ear. Oh, my, the ear is bleeding. What a coinky-dink.
Interesting.
Yeah, come on.
This is the same company that supposedly told Seth Petrozelli not to go to the ground with Kimbo.
Right, supposedly.
Right.
So, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so you never talked to Elite XC, Yama, IFL.
Who else has gone out of business that I could have talked to?
Well, there is one company, Paul, that is in business.
Yeah.
And
well, there's not. There's three now.
Well, Bellator, Strikeforce, UFC, and then you got obviously Dream, Sengoku. Those are the 5 main ones on the scene right now in MMA. There were a couple.
Dream and Sengoku, they don't speak Yiddish, so they ain't gonna hire me.
And I won't ask you about Musin and War on the Mainland and all that stuff. But Strikeforce,
right?
Have you ever talked to them?
Oh, I almost bought Strikeforce. I forgot that one.
That is true.
I kind of left that
this?
one out.
Yeah,
2007.
With who? I'm not trying to say that you can't afford it on your own, but
no. Well, let me be very blunt with you. I can't afford it on my own. There were a bunch of guys. There were a bunch of producers with a lot of sports experience who were MMA enthusiasts that wanted to get involved, that had product knowledge. Some of whom had produced K1.
Okay.
And some of whom had produced for Dream, and Pride. A couple Pride producers as well. American-based Pride producers. And there were some people who politically had helped them get their license in the United States, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, these were guys who had a lot of product knowledge, a lot of passion for the industry. And there were some financial guys. And we approached Scott Coker, and I was a big Scott Coker fan. And actually, I kind of knew Scott Coker through Daniel Puder, who was who became a pro wrestler, and he was a Strikeforce fighter. And so we got together with Coker, and the offer was to buy him out and to keep him on, because I think he just understands about live events, and he's a good matchmaker, and he understands things. He really does. I mean, he's certainly a very qualified, capable person in the MMA world, and you know, he's been at it for 25 years. You know, and he expanded his kickboxing business and his other shoot fight, or you remember when it was called shoot fight, you know, shoot fight oriented stuff, and expanded into the mixed martial arts world, and he carved a hell of a niche for himself in Northern California. And I wanted to get access to guys like Frank Shamrock and Kung Lee. He had a really good roster. At the end of the day, one of our financial guys, who was the key to the deal, wanted to change the deal. And I wasn't comfortable with it. And one of the producers that I was very close with said, this deal's going to go south, and Coker's going to get burned. And I wasn't going to do it, especially coming out of the wrestling world. And my first entry into MMA is going to be, I'm a rip-off artist. And no thanks. I don't want to live the rest of my life with that reputation. I already have enough of it as it is. And I'm like, you know, this ain't a carny play. This, you know, this was a legitimate business offer, and I wasn't trying to rip anybody off. And I flew to California, and I told Scott the deal's off. And I told him why. And we shook hands, and we remained friends.
Really?
Yeah.
You regret it?
No. I did, because I would have been a rip-off artist.
How so?
Because it was the same thing as IFL. It became, instead of becoming a money raise, it became a reverse merger.
Okay.
And once you get into the reverse merger business, it becomes real shady real fast. And I just didn't want it.
Did he want to get rid of it?
No.
But you just gave him a great deal in his eyes.
I mean, the papers weren't drawn. Mm-hmm. We were still in discussions.
Right.
You know, I mean, it never came to effect of, okay, on Tuesday we're closing, and Paul, you guys are the owners, and but you're a mere servant. You know, it wasn't there, but I mean, we were discussing it. Yeah.
So you don't, you know, this deal doesn't happen.
Right.
But does Scott come up to you and say, you know what, I would love to work with you?
Oh, yeah.
What? Yeah, and what did you say?
I just don't see the fit yet.
Oh, now I'm not even talking about now. I'm talking about then.
Yeah, I didn't see the fit then either.
Really?
You know? Yeah, I mean, again, I'm still, I'm on the periphery here, you know, and it's a fascinating movement to me. It's fascinating, you know, fascinating. I mean, just and hasn't even scratched the surface yet of its potential. I mean,
you think it could get bigger?
Oh my!
Will it get bigger?
Oh my God, yeah.
You think so?
Oh my God, it's what Lorenzo Fertitta's doing.
Right.
That's what he's spending his life doing right now. Think of it this way, and I brought this point up when we talked in Vegas. UFC alone sold more pay-per-views domestically last year than the entire professional wrestling industry did on a global basis. Now, that doesn't really say much because TNA doesn't really do a lot of buys. But World Wrestling Entertainment is no joke in the pay-per-view business.
Right.
And their global pay-per-view business does not equal UFC's domestic pay-per-view business. That says a lot.
And Eric, there is no correlation between the two, right?
Come on.
One going up and one going down, right?
Come on.
So, okay, so I mean, obviously, then you're a huge fan. You know this. Scott, you have a relationship with him. You see what he's doing now. You think?
Did I just sniffle right on the air?
No. And by the way, the people who are waiting online to talk to
we're
us,
hanging up on all of you.
No. We'll get
all
you in
of
a
you.
second.
We're going to hang up on all.
Just
clear this. Just go like this, and just let new people call in.
I just want to get all this stuff.
Ariel's trying to be so politically correct right now.
No, not at all. I love the fans.
Then hang up on everybody.
So many people watching and writing right now. Okay.
It's like Vince McMahon in the headsets. Do it now.
Oh, I've heard about that. Oh, that must be a nightmare.
For those who pay attention to it, it certainly is.
How do you think Scott's doing?
He's alive in an industry where everybody dies. So, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. He's in an industry where every competitor has been, hey, it's not like Affliction didn't have a budget. These guys understand marketing. These guys understand out-of-the-box marketing. These guys are huge fans of the product. These guys wanted to be successful. It's not like, is it Asensio? I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Atencio. Tom. I
don't know. Tommy boy.
Nah.
T, my man T, you know?
T-A.
It's not like these are stupid people. These are very intelligent people. And
You say they understand marketing, though. From my side of things, the one thing that I'll say that Strikeforce is not doing well right now is marketing.
Right.
They are not, Bellator does a fantastic job of this, and, they need all the help they can get because they're the new kid on the block.
Right.
You go online right now to the Strikeforce YouTube channel. YouTube's a major, major force. I mean, this is a monster, what you can do on YouTube. There are not that many videos, if one video, about Strikeforce Houston, maybe like a 30-second promo.
Then they need to address that.
So are they smart at marketing?
I didn't say. We were talking about Affliction was smart at marketing.
Oh,
remember Atencio, not Asensio. Atencio. Yeah, I understand that there's going to be Paul Heyman thinks he knows MMA, doesn't even know fucking Tom Atencio.
No, come on. I mean,
I'll say it. I should have known his name. Hey, listen, my bad.
Right.
These are smart guys, and they couldn't make it. So Coker, for all of his faults, he's alive in a business where everybody dies.
So is that good enough for the next 5 years?
Well, it's certain. If you know the old expression. If you're dead, you can't change things. He's alive, so he can improve on his business.
But from your perspective, you sit down and watch their shows, and you talk to people.
If he's in bankruptcy court,
right?
He can't really improve his marketing.
Yeah, well,
okay. He's not in bankruptcy court. He's still alive. He still has a pulse. And it's not like he's on the balls of his ass too. He's turning a profit,
and he's putting on good shows.
Hey,
I just think they need to, educate people that these shows are happening.
Oh, there's a lot for them to do.
Do you think you can help them?
I think yeah.
And I'm not just talking about the marketing thing, because obviously in what way?
There's a plethora of ways. I mean,
would you want to be Scott Coker? I mean, not him.
Would I want to be Scott Coker personally?
No. Would you want to be the guy standing at the podium and being like, on Saturday night we've got a great?
I don't want to be on camera anymore.
You don't want to do
I don't even like that camera being on. If I could throw my jacket over that camera right now, I would do it just like that. But this whole room is wired.
I mean, this is like 9 of them.
This is like a deposition.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, okay, so I'm a liar. What do you want?
I think you are an entertainer. People love. I mean, look at the response that we're getting.
Yeah, but I'm fat. I'm 45. I'm bald, and I'm ugly. So I mean, I'm not the guy that should be. My children think I'm beautiful, but your kids wouldn't think I'm. And not that you have kids, at least the ones that you would admit to yet. But I mean, but your kids won't think. I mean, what 12-year-old's going to turn on TV and go, "I want to be that guy right there"?
But that's not the role of a promoter. I mean, of course, Dana White, he's always wearing cool clothes. He's a hip guy, whatever. And he's got a look.
But it's new for Dana.
Right.
It's new for Dana wasn't a public figure until he was in his 30s. Okay, I did it from the time I was 21. I'm fucking sick of it. I feel like a child star. I mean, man. You go on YouTube now. I get these phone calls like 2:00 in the morning all the time. Hey man, you're on ESPN Classic, dude. That was you. Holy shit. I can turn on ESPN Classic. I look at myself at 21 years old. I'm 45.
AWA?
AWA,
right.
man. I'm 45. I don't want to see clips of me when it looks like my son. You know, I mean, it could be, you know,
Right.
but it's me. I was on TV for so long. I'm tired of being on TV.
So maybe being behind the scenes,
Yeah.
telling guys how to sell themselves,
Yeah.
how to promote a fight.
Mhm.
You would like that.
It's something I could definitely do. Sure. I mean, it is not like I haven't done it unofficially for friends of mine, you know. But
Who are in the business.
yeah.
But have you told them, hey, look, I mean, obviously Scott knows what you've done.
I've had discussions with them, sure. I mean, Scott was in New York last week. I had a meeting with Scott Coker.